Welcome to the channel and welcome to another review video. My name is Kai Song, and as many of you know, I'm traditionally a Canon user and I'm very keen on getting my hands on the EOS R soon, and I'm excited for what Canon has planned in the way of a new full-frame pro mirrorless camera rumoured to be released at some point in 2020. But something else has caught my eye in the interim, and that is the Fujifilm X-T3.
The summer's calling, 'cause when it's all over, the love that you give will be there to guide you in every way. Now we've been through the cold and darkest days. The summer's calling.
Recently, I had the opportunity to meet up with some filmmakers and YouTubers, namely Alps Lifey, Blake Ridder and Curious Pavel from the W.O.L.F Pack, and they brought along their X-T3 cameras so that we could have a more in-depth look at how they work. I also had a quick chat with Alps, who's been using the X-T3 for over 6 months on a wide range of different filmmaking and video projects, so I will also include his words of wisdom in this video too. So let's jump into it. First up, ergonomics, and the X-T3 is a mirrorless camera, and because of that you've got a much smaller body than your traditional DSLRs, weighing in at a very manageable 869 grams, including the kit lens. It's hardly going to damage your back on a long shoot day, especially if you're used to using something like the Canon 5D Mark III, where the body alone weighs 860 grams by itself. In addition to this, it's a crop frame camera, which also means your lenses, on average, are going to be a lot smaller and a lot lighter too. And the retro body also looks super cool, so you can take it anywhere and look amazing. Like most modern cameras, the Fujifilm X-T3 is water sealed, and according to the DP review forum, one user noted that he had used it in the rain, in the snow, and even dropped it in some damp sand and didn't have any issues at all, which is pretty reassuring. Additionally, you have dual card slots, which means you can output RAW and JPEG images simultaneously. You have a USB-C type connector, which means that you can charge the battery while using the camera. Again, amazing for filmmakers. Filmmakers will also appreciate the fact that you have a headphone output, allowing you to monitor all of your sound levels. You have a tilt screen, which can help you film from low angles, although the screen doesn't completely flip out, which is a bit of a downside for all of you vloggers out there. And because it's a mirrorless camera, it has a 3.69 million dot electronic viewfinder. And as a traditional DSLR user, I'm more accustomed to an optical viewfinder, although saying that, I didn't think that the projected image was bad at all. It was actually pretty good quality.
The customization on this camera, you can assign loads of the function buttons as well. But what I like most about it is the dials on top. I've gotten really used to being able to change my ISO just by flicking the dial at the top, changing my shutter speed with the dials at the top, aperture on the lens. It's just, I don't know, for me it was just like really convenient, and it's very analogy, but it's almost like it's a cinema camera in a small camera body.
The X-T3 comes with Fujifilm's new X-Trans CMOS 4 sensor and X-Processor 4 imaging processing engine, whatever that means. But the company says that the new tech delivers 3 times the processing speed of current models, including the X-T2. The sensor of the X-T3 is 26 megapixels, and as we mentioned before, it's a crop frame sensor, so it isn't full frame. But before you click away, listen to the capabilities of what the camera does with that crop framed sensor.
So some of the things that really drew me to the X-T3 was the ability to have 4K 60p at 10-bit, and that was a big thing because we know that you could get 4K 60p at 8-bit with some other cameras, but to have that 10-bit really makes a difference. You can see the difference in there in terms of skin tone and the gradation in skies and stuff like that.
Yes, the X-T3 is the first APS-C camera that can shoot 4K at up to 60 frames per second, and it can handle Cinema 4K at 30 frames per second. And it can also film full HD, that's 1080p, at 120 FPS. Now comparing that to the Canon 5D Mark IV, the 5D Mark IV can only film 120 FPS at 720p.
Everyone has always assumed that Canon and Arri have like had the best color science in cameras, and you know, I would say that Canon has for a long time. I even like really liked the Canon color science over other cameras, but when I went to Fuji, I started noticing that actually the colors are more lifelike, and they're not oversaturated. They tend to just seem to get it right. Like there's not too much of one thing and there's not too less of another thing. They just seem to nail it. And also built into the camera, you got F-Log, which is really great for like retaining highlights, protecting your shadows. It's such a versatile log profile, and for me it's one of the best ones that I've used.
Now you've also got a new codec, H.265, where 4K is recorded internally at 10-bit with 420 color processing, giving you a bigger margin of error for over or underexposed footage. You have 4K 60p shooting, which is limited to H.264 with 8-bit internal recording, but if you really need it, you can connect the X-T3 to an external recorder and get glorious 10-bit with 422 color sampling all the way up to 4K 60p. And essentially what that means is you can film color information to the tune of over 1 billion combinations. Now to me, that sounds pretty impressive. In addition to this, there is no sensor crop factor when shooting in 4K mode, up to 30p. There is a crop factor when shooting 4K at 50 or 60p, which is about 1.18.
On the X-T3 as well, you've got the film simulations. A favorite for people is a turner built in. The one thing about the F-Log is that you can use the F-Log, and on Fuji's website, they've actually got the Eterna LUT that you can download and apply onto F-Log. So you've got a lot more versatility in terms of your highlights and shadows. And as I said before, the highlight recovery is really, really great. I can't believe how much data in video I'm able to pull back, and what I thought was lost comes back in, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
On the X-T3, the native ISO values range from 160 to 12,800, and extended ISO ranges from 80 to 51,200. With improved low light capabilities, you can also shoot comfortably up to ISO 8000, and in some conditions, even ISO 12,800. You also have a 425-point hybrid AF system, which works really well in low light conditions and slow motion, and it uses eye detection and face detection in photo and video mode. Now, as a Canon user, I didn't think that it was as good as Canon's DP-AF, but it did stack up pretty well in comparison.
Every camera has its pros and cons, and there are cons on the X-T3, mainly focusing around autofocus. And I guess if you're into filmmaking, it might not be such a problem because you might have a follow focus rig and manual lenses. But if you're like someone like me who tends to rely on the autofocus a bit when I'm shooting by myself, and I shoot by myself a lot, and for me it's like I've discovered when you like wear sunglasses, or if you've got something covering your face a little bit, the autofocus isn't as good. It doesn't lock onto my face, and it is a problem. And I can't understand why, if I'm wearing glasses, it still can't track my face. It seems to like lose all comprehension that I'm a human being.
Now, when it comes to dynamic range, the Fuji X-T3 is recorded to have 11.2 stops of DR, which is not bad at all when compared to current cameras on the market.
And plus the fact that Fuji will be releasing more updates for this camera as well. And we know that they historically have added features that weren't previously in cameras, not just improved on features, but added extra features. So now with the X-T3, we can only hope to see what they're going to add, because it's already so much of a camera for the price.
So how much will one of these cameras cost you? Well, you can buy a brand new Fujifilm X-T3 with the kit lens for £1,700 in the UK, around $1,900 for our friends in the United States. And on eBay, second-hand bodies are selling from around £1,100 to £1,400, or about $1,400 to $1,700. So who should get one of these cameras? Well, there are already a plethora of professional photographers that use this camera for their businesses, whether that be weddings or corporate work. And as we've already seen, filmmakers such as Alps Lifey and Blake Ridder already own and use this camera system for their filmmaking projects. So will I get one? I'm keen on seeing if Canon actually do turn around the much anticipated Pro mirrorless full frame in 2020, but till then, I'll be on the lookout, maybe, for a second-hand X-T3. And if I can get a good enough price on one, I might just buy it. So, those are my thoughts as a Canon user on the Fujifilm X-T3. But what about you? Are you actually planning on getting one? Or if you already own one, what features stand out to you? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already subscribed, do consider subscribing to KaiCreative, hitting that bell button for notifications. In the meantime, guys, stay creative, imagine, implement, and inspire, and I will catch you next time on KaiCreative.